Good morning, everyone. Britt Simon here. Hope you're all doing well. Hope everyone is safe and happy and so on, and ready for another weekend. So it's Saturday morning where I live. I live in California, Northern California, which is just outside San Francisco. Beautiful weather here this time of year. Absolutely superb place to live. More of you need to consider California, I would say. As a place to live. It's ridiculously expensive here, but it's also the place where you can build opportunities and build on your wealth, I would say, faster than any other state for most people, particularly if you're in any sort of technology job. So it's hard to understate or overstate, sorry. It's hard to overstate how much opportunity there is here. It's really incredible. But anyway, speaking of people with opportunities, good morning, Philip. How are you? Glad to see you're awake already. It's later on in the afternoon for you, right? Anyway, so let's take some questions. We can look at the data that was published by Zarthisius yesterday. We can have a look at that, or we can take some questions. So let's talk about that. This is a good question to start with. What's the reason for photo denial during interviews? That's actually quite rare. The only real denials I've seen during interviews, is when your photo has been sort of mixed around. So let's say you've got a family and you've got, husband and wife and 2 kids or something. If you've mixed around the photos, that can cause denial. If you've used a photo which is obviously old, but it wasn't obvious during the entry period, it was only obvious when you actually turn up for the interview because your physical appearance has changed. You've become older, right? If you then, it's obvious to the officer that you didn't comply with the instructions to take a new photo. The photo is supposed to be less than 6 months old at the time of entry. Okay, you should really create a new photo every time you do every year you do the entry. You shouldn't be using or reusing an old photo, right? So the denials I've seen have been things like that. It's when people mix around the photos, or it becomes obvious to the consular officer that the photo you used was old, and that's the only time. Now, photos cause holes. So out of everybody that's selected, did you know if we just take the number of people for DV25, we know that there are cases up to about 87,000 or so, 88,000 in Africa. And out of those 88,000 case numbers, because they start at number 1, they go up to 88,000, out of those case numbers, there are over 50,000, I think it's something like 52,000 holes, okay? So 52,000 out of the first 88,000 case numbers were sorted early enough to be winners, but they were disqualified because of something on their application, which is mainly the photo, okay? So those cases were disqualified not at the interview. We're not talking about at the interview. We're talking before the results are announced. Those cases are disqualified because of the photos primarily. It's the biggest single reason for disqualifications prior to the announcement of the results is photos. So many of you are screwing up your photos terribly, and it needs to stop. And because of that, that's driven me to work on a solution for that, where I'm going to be releasing a photo app that will provide all of the same checks that I believe the government are imposing as they do their process of sifting through the photos. The only thing I won't be able to do is to tell you whether you've used your photo in multiple entries, which is the other part that, of course, that they can do. But other than that, all of the AI technology that they're using in order to identify people that didn't follow the instructions and haven't submitted a valid photo, all of those things will be applied in my photo tool. So I'm pretty excited about that, and I'll be releasing it in September. Anyway, so there you go. That's the answer for you for your photos questions. Yannick says, amazing break. I'm enjoying the US. Glad to hear it. I love these sort of messages. Thank you. I'll listen to happy messages about people who are starting their life in America because of the green card lottery. I'll listen to those sort of messages anytime at all. Are there chances of 2NL to be sent in the next few days for 2025? Look, every day that goes by from now on, there's less and less chance of any more 2NLs coming out. I'm not going to tell you that I'm sure that there are no more 2NLs coming out, because there are probably going to be a few. Most years we see a few come out during August, but they're 1 here, 2 here, 3 here, and those are typically things like follow to join cases, and maybe the odd case here and there, but not very many. And so we're getting to the point now where, since we're the 2nd of August, hope is fading fast that there will be any more 2NLs coming out. So, like I say, I can't say that it won't happen, but I don't think we're going to see very many more. Just in case, always love your name. Good to hear from you. MC Starboy says, hello, Simon. How are you doing on a DV25 winner currently in the United States, VA, Virginia? So that's awesome. Janet says, good afternoon. God bless you. Thank you. Janet, I'm guessing Janet is a fairly common name in Cuba, South America, but I think in Cuba, I believe. Are you from Cuba? Let me know. Are you a DV26 winner from Cuba? Definitely would like to talk to you. Ashatu, any chances to receive the 2NL? I think I just answered that. My live is lagging. Thank you, Alvin. Let me see. I'm going to just shut down a bunch of stuff here. Just see if that's going to improve things. I think I may have connectivity concerns, but I'm also going to shut down a bunch of windows here. I'm one of those people that opens, many windows, and it drives people I know. It drives them nuts. But anyway, we'll do that. I might need to be getting I can see myself, lagging here, so I might need to be getting a new computer. Let me just see if is my audio coming through okay. Yeah, I think I'm not getting any complaints about audio, but it is lagging a little bit. Okay, don't think there's anything more I can do about that. Okay, thank you for letting me know, though. I'll see how that goes. If I have to, I might have to restart or something. Are there chances of 2NL for Morocco? Same answer I just gave for 2NLs in general. I don't know why Casablanca decided to stop taking interviews. I saw a kind of sad but sort of hilarious statement from some self-appointed title that somebody had created from Morocco, sort of demanding that the US embassy do more interviews, etc., in Morocco. And this was a statement worded from someone who's got absolutely no authority over the US embassy in Casablanca or any other US embassy. And it's not helpful to write emails and statements like that, where you just drive someone into a position saying, who the hell are you to demand of us, the American government, the American US embassy in Casablanca, who are you to demand what we do? You're no one. And when you say to someone who has that sort of power, 50% of the time they're more likely to turn around and say, well, I'm going to show you who's powerful. It's not you making the demand, it's us. We have the power. We have the power to do what we want. So I don't know if this statement was actually sent to the US embassy, but I think it's a 50-50 chance whether that helps or whether it hinders. You can't demand things, in this process. There is nobody who has a right to receive an interview, nor a right for a green card, nor can we force embassies. Unfortunately, we've tried to force embassies to do more interviews and that sort of thing. Can't do it. It doesn't work. They have the right to set their own capacity and to determine their prioritization. So if they've determined that the IR category are a higher priority than DV, that's the way it is. At that embassy, we can't do anything about that. So unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about Morocco. We can only wait and see if Morocco do the right thing. But they may not, and we have to face that reality. Okay. Hello, Mr. Jim. Do I have a chance to win the DV lottery for the second round? Okay, let's talk about this. So in about 1 to 2 weeks' time, we'll see the visa bulletin released for which will be called the September visa bulletin, and it concerns the DV lottery numbers and the interviews for October. Okay, and it's released in August. They've got this horrible naming convention. The visa bulletin released in August will be called the September bulletin and will affect October interviews. It's very bizarre the way they do that. But anyway, that visa bulletin is probably the one that will give us the number of winners per country in DV 2026. When we total all of those up, I'm expecting that number to be more than 100,000. To be very honest, I'm expecting that number to be more than 100,000, quite significantly more than 100,000. In some years where they've made that number to be low, so the initial number of selectees is low, let's say about 80,000, 85,000, 90,000, at those sorts of levels, they sometimes add a second draw. They add a second number of winners. Could be 5,000 more, 10,000 more. So it has happened in some years, but not very many years. I think in the whole time, I've been doing DV lottery since 2013. So in that whole time, maybe it's happened twice, maybe 3 times. It's not very many. And so, and even if it happens, the case numbers allocated to those cases in the second draw would start from the highest numbers that have already been allocated. So we would be talking very high case numbers, right, with very little chance to get processed. So yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but I'll be able to give you a more confident yes or no once I see the data in about 2 weeks' time. Okay. My case number is 4K Algeria. My case is already processed. Do you think I'll get an interview in October? Maybe. It depends when you got processed. As long as your case was processed, yeah, probably actually, if it's processed by now, it's possible. Algeria's got a good chance of going current for 4K in October. So yeah, there's a possibility. I'll have to wait and see, but it's right at the beginning. So it's no problem if the green cards given out in November and December are just as good as the ones given out in October. Okay. Is Trump's new travel ban going to affect the DV lottery because he gave 60 days? This 60 days thing is just, it's so freaking annoying. People they read something about a 60-day period in the travel ban, and they have assumed that the travel ban therefore is going to stop at 60 days. It's not. You're dreaming if you think that that's the case. You're dreaming. He didn't say he was putting in a temporary travel ban. He's put in a travel ban full stop. So to Trump, he's not planning to remove the ban at 60 days. I can tell you that for sure. Is it possible that some country might be removed from the list at 60 days? Maybe at 90 days, maybe. But there's no, I don't think on day 61, we're going to wake up and everything's going to be better for the travel ban. It's just not going to be like that. Okay. So I think you need to face realities. I don't know what's going to end the travel ban. It might be lawsuits. I know there are some lawsuits starting. We'll have to see. But the main effect of the lawsuits, as far as I can predict, will be that maybe they will issue visas rather than just refusing visas as they currently are. because the travel ban, the president has the right. It's been long established, and it's been proven in several court cases, including ones in DV lottery, that the president has the right to stop entry of anybody, including people who hold a visa. He has the right to stop entry. Okay. In previous lawsuits, we won the argument that says, yes, you can stop entry, but you should continue to issue the visas. And Curtis Morrison is going to relitigate that fundamental question. That's an important thing, because if, let's say, at the end of this year, Trump says, okay, no more travel ban, and you're sitting on a visa which you gained in September, let's say, then you could use that in January or February or whatever, as long as the travel ban has been removed. So, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that goes. Okay. Ryan, back again, your fellow Brit. We're still waiting for an update regarding the UK lawsuit. Thanks again for doing this for us. Your help does not go unnoticed. No real update, Ryan. We're waiting until August the 15th. The lawsuits were, we filed the lawsuit, I think it was June 6th or June 9th, something around about that. But by the time all the parties were served, that means President Trump, Rubio, Kristi Noem, and the director of KCC. By the time they were all served, that was June 15th. And so the government then has 60 days to respond from that point. And so that's why August 15th is the date when we would expect an answer, right? And the answer is going to come one way. The answer is going to be, yeah, you're right. I just can't imagine a world where they come back and argue this in any way. Then it just doesn't make sense. The facts are pretty much indisputable at this point. I'm just looking to prove the facts and have them put on record, yeah, we've screwed up. Then when they've got on record, yeah, we screwed up, like, how do we remedy that, right? And so we're preparing for that part of the argument. Like, okay, you screwed up. Now we, as the prevailing party in this, have proven that you've recklessly, screwed up the process. How do we know you're going to fix this? How can we be transparent and have the transparency for everybody to say, okay, how are you going to restore the chances for the people that entered the lottery in good faith? And for that, I want to be involved, right? I want to be able to control or not dictate necessarily, and probably not even control, but at least suggest how this remedy should take place. So we will win the lawsuit by having the statement of saying, yeah, we screwed up. And then the next point is, how do we remedy that? Which is, is the only fair thing that could then happen, right? We have to see if we can do that fast enough to help any DV25 candidates. I don't know that we can, but we're going to try. And it will, for sure, it will help DV26, and it will stop it continuing DV27, which will be announced soon, by the way. Anyway, Ryan, I hope that makes sense. I'm sorry, I feel like I'm being a bit repetitive on that update, because that's the only update I've got. There's no other update to give apart from that. So I'm sorry if you've heard all of that before, Ryan, or anyone else. But we've still got to wait a couple of weeks. Just 2 weeks now. 2 weeks till we find out. 2 weeks yesterday. Okay, it's on the Friday the 15th. Hey, Britt, thanks so much for now in the US. You helped me a lot. That's awesome. Congratulations. Hi, Britt Simon. May I inquire where one can find the costs for using you as a postal service to receive the green card and social security number if one is not in the country initially? Okay, I've been slow to release this, and I should have done this a little bit faster, and I apologize. But there have already been some people who've used my my service. I've set the cost at $80. I think I've screwed up a little bit in a sense, because what I wanted to do was make the cost as low as possible, but also leave it to the point where there would be, some way that I could, have this done without it costing me a lot of my personal time for absolutely no reason. And I wanted to make sure that I could have some some motivation to get young people, my daughter or other people, do this as a job, right? Because I know it's going to be quite a lot of work. And so I've probably set the price point too low, to be honest with you, but I'll stick with it. So it's going to be $80. And for the $80, I'll receive the green card and the social security number. And then I'll send them via a FedEx envelope to any address you want in the USA. What I did with the last one, which was kind of cool, was I sent it to a FedEx office, and the instructions were to hold at that office. The person whose green card it was just simply had to go to that office, show ID, and pick it up from the office. It was brilliant, and it worked ever so quickly. Sending that with FedEx was really good. But the FedEx costs will wipe out the majority, or almost the majority, of that $80, right? So it's going to be fairly expensive to operate, but okay, whatever, doesn't matter. At least it's going to help some people out. So so there you go. So that's going to be the cost. I'll publish a proper explanation on how to do it. I want to find a way that people can use that and sort of remove this as a worry, because it is a worry. I don't want people to send their green card and social security number to some person they don't really know, can't really trust, and so on. And there are some concerns about doing that, and so that's why I've created this service, right? But I also want to make sure that people can just remove this from the worry during the DS-260 filing process and so on. So I need to firm up the instructions on how that can be done, and how to make it a little bit sort of easier. And I don't want any of the costs to be paid up front. I mean, it will be up front when you're actually using the address service, when you've actually been approved for your visa. But I don't want someone to be paying me before they've even gone to interview, right? So I'm trying to make it as good as possible, because that's just the way I like to do things. It's the same thing with the photo costs. We're working at the moment to get the photo service released, but I'm going to make the photo as cheap as I possibly can. I don't want the photos to be a big financial burden, and somehow dissuade people from doing this. I want as many people as possible to realize that they should take a new photo, and yes, it will cost them a few dollars, but that's the most important thing they can do in order to make sure their applications are taken seriously. Like I said earlier, 60% of the entries from Africa region, from the first 88,000 entries, were disqualified prior to the results being announced. 60%, more than 60%. So that's 3 out of every 5 cases. 3 out of every 5 cases, just ruining their chances because they're not taking the photos properly. So, so I want people to use that, and I want people to use the address service, but I don't want to make the cost so high that you guys think, oh, I'll do something else. That doesn't help you. It's not useful. So anyway, there you go. That's an explanation. Watch out for that. I'll try and publish that this week. I'm working on some things at the moment, but I'll try and publish the address service details this week. Okay. DV2560T has latent TB at IOM. Given option in a letter to do treatment in Kenya or USA, will they get visa or be allowed in the USA? Latent is what you mean, not latent. So look, I'm not a doctor, but if they're giving you an option to get treatment in the USA, it sounds like they will allow you to proceed with the process and get treatment later. I think that from what you're saying, that's the type of TB diagnosis that says, look, it's in you, but it's not transmission. You can't transmit that to anyone, and that's their real concern. What they don't want is for you to come when you've got active TB, where you can transmit that disease to other people in America. All right, and that's basically the reason that we all have medical interviews. They're interested in 4 diseases. They don't give a damn whether you wear eyeglasses. The number of questions I've had about stupid things that people worry about when they're going for the medical. One guy I remember had one leg shorter than the other. I think we all probably do, right? But he had one leg significantly shorter than the other. And, will that cause a medical refusal? No, of course it freaking won't. It won't, because that's not going to challenge anybody else. It's not going to be transmissible to anybody else, right? The only thing they care about is 4 diseases, which are which are communicable diseases of public health significance, meaning they are serious diseases and you can transfer and spread this disease throughout America. That's what they're trying to keep out. That's the exact reason that we all have medicals, right? And so TB is one of those 4. And but if it's latent, then I don't believe you can spread it, and therefore you're not a concern. Okay, so so there you go. That's what you have to think about. Okay, all right. Actually, Samantha, I went past yours. Just checking on you. Thank you. Amadou says DV25 AF13 in LA, got an offer for 90K a year, but still waiting for my SSN. I entered USA on July 5th. Can I go to the SSN admin office? Yes, absolutely. You should have done by now already. If you don't get your social security number within 2 to 3 weeks after arrival, then something has gone wrong with the process, and you need to go to the SSA office and get, apply for an SSN. You absolutely need to do that. Okay, go and do it. Again, coming soon for Visa Bulletin. It was 2025 intake or 2026? Please explain. The next Visa Bulletin will be for DV26. DV25 Visa Bulletins have finished, right? The last one that we saw was the final one for DV25. So the next one will be it will be for DV26. Okay. DV court case, how's it going? Christian, I think you mean the GB one, right? And I gave an explanation on that a little bit earlier, so I don't want to repeat that, but thanks for asking. Okay. Oh dear, I'll call you John. Hi, Brett Simon, DV26 winner. Tuning in from Kigali, Rwanda. Just wanted to say we love your guidance. It means a lot. Fingers crossed. 2026 is going to be a winning year for all of us. I hope so. I think it's becoming more and more clear over the past 3 or 4 years that one of the main things that people have to worry about is which embassy they're at. Okay, your case number is significantly important. Your DS-260 processing is important. Whether you've told the truth and comply with all the instructions, yes, that's important. Whether you meet the requirements, education, absolutely, it's important. All those things are important. But your chance of getting a green card depends a lot on the embassy that you get assigned to, and whether you pay attention during the year to be able to move your case if your embassy stops performing. And it's tricky, and people need to sit up and listen to that and hear loud and clear. I probably need to do a better job of trying to find out information as we can, but it's very difficult to find out why an embassy just suddenly stops taking cases. They don't tell us. They just stop. And sometimes you've got a good embassy that is doing super well, then all of a sudden stops. And then you've got other embassies that are just quiet performers, and at the end of the year they become the ones that do the heroic efforts. So it's difficult to tell exactly which will be the good embassies versus the bad ones, but it's an amazingly important thing, right? I was having a mistake on my application process, and you told me not to continue the process, but today I'm in the United States. What was that? Which was the mistake in your application process? MC Starboy, I'd love to hear more about that. If I don't know what mistake. I can't remember what you were telling me. The opportunities here are incredible. I'm not working yet, but every week I get opportunities. Only my SSN will unlock everything for me. Yeah, go get your SSN, Amadou. Hybrid Simon, can I change my birthplace in DS-260 if I entered it wrongly in initial DV entry? Yes, you're in your DS-260, you put the accurate information. If in the original entry you did it inaccurately, you still fix it in the DS260. Same as if you've made a mistake with your birth date or your name. Even though those things are how you entered the DV lottery, it is important that the DS260 has accurate, corrected information. Okay, so yeah, do that. Hi Simon, NRB 33K, any hope or DV25 is done? I can't say it's done, but there's not much hope. Nairobi stopped scheduling it around about 21,500. For them to get from 21,500 to your number would take an enormous number of further interviews to be arranged. They took 450 interviews just a couple of weeks ago for September. I don't really think they're going to take another 400 or 500 interviews for September. I just don't think that's going to happen. I'd be a little bit surprised if they take any more, let alone 450 or 500 more. I don't think it's going to happen. So I can't tell you 100% it won't happen, but I don't think it's going to happen, to be perfectly blunt. Okay. Hello, can I go to the USA with a green card and be a governor or senator of California, and how can I deal with racism? Good questions. As a green card holder, you can't be a governor or a senator, but you can become a citizen and therefore become a senator or a governor, both at state level and at federal level, right? The only job that you can't get as a non-American-born citizen, a naturalized citizen, you know, if you're a naturalized citizen, you're slightly different to a natural-born citizen. And that big difference is the presidency, the president of the USA. That job is reserved for someone who is born in America, okay? Now, Trump was born in America. His wife wasn't, you know. So, you know, there are immigrants allowed in the White House, right? Apparently. But for the presidency, you have to be you have to be a US-born citizen, not naturalized. Okay. How can you deal with racism? It's a good question. There is racism in America. In fact, I think there's more racism in America than there was in UK when I was growing up in the UK. That may be different these days. I don't know. I've lived in America for the last 11 years, 12 years or so, and I've been splitting my time between America and the UK for the last 30 years. Maybe my perspective is a little bit different, but honestly, I believe the racism that I've observed has been worse in America than outside of America, in Europe and in the UK in particular. So there is racism here, but in general, that tends to be in sort of, some of the crappier states, right? If you go to Louisiana or Alabama or Arkansas or somewhere like that, you're going to run into racism. But who the hell wants to go to those states anyway, right? Why would you be going there, right? Just don't go there. Like, don't plan to live in those crappy states. So if you looked at a map of America, the lower eastern part of America is where most of the racism tends to be. Now, that's not to say that you can't have racism that occurs elsewhere in America. Of course you can. You can have racists anywhere because they're free to travel. Racists are free to travel. But it's going to be more obvious, more open in those southern states. Those southern states were the ones that went to war in the War of Independence, not the War of Independence, the Civil War in America. They went to war to keep slavery, right? So of course they're freaking racist. These are the states where, as late as 1960 something, there were people who were. I saw a letter to someone from 1959. This was someone who applied for medical school in, I think it was in Louisiana, and they were denied. And the letter said, "No, we can't accept Negroes." Right? It literally said that. And that's almost in my lifetime. I wasn't born in 1959, but close, a few years later. Almost in my lifetime, there's been such obvious racism, such obvious discrimination, that a university was prepared to write that in a rejection letter. totally, totally okay with writing that, right? So, there are people alive today, older than me, obviously, that, that experience that type of racism. So, now, okay, so we've established racism exists. How do you deal with it? Well, firstly, you choose to be in an area where you will not be encountering that every day of your life. Secondly, I guess you learn somehow to ignore it. I'm a white guy, so I can't really tell you exactly from a personal experience, but I think that you would have to try and ignore it. And then thirdly, you use the great equalizer here. Money is the equalizer. No matter how dark your skin, if you're wealthy, you will have opportunity, right? And you will be treated well, even from people that might, under their breath, they might be complaining about you because you've got dark skin or whatever, or you have different religious beliefs. But if you've got money, you can hire and fire that person, right? You can do whatever you want. So use what is good in America, the ability to create wealth and so on. Use those opportunities and use that as your power against and your protection against being discriminated against. So for me, the smart move is just to win, right? And I don't care where you come from personally. I don't care what color your skin is. But if you win, you've done the right thing. Like, and unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to look at it, winning in America, a lot of that is to do with the wealth that you can create for yourself and what you can give back to society and so on. Do be a winner, right? That's the main thing. It's great. My mum used to talk about this. I'm going to swear, Philip, shut the kids' eyes. But she would talk about having fuck you money. She wanted always to be financially independent. My father was in a senior position with the government, but she also had a job because she wanted money to be able to say fuck you to anybody, including to my dad if necessary. She didn't want to be asking my dad for a few dollars to go buy, whatever she needed, some makeup or whatever the hell she wanted, right? She got her own job so that she could say, well, fuck you, I'm going to go and buy myself whatever I want. She had nice sports cars, she had nice stuff, and they were very comfortable as a couple, not wealthy, but they were comfortable. But she always made sure she had her own money. And so if anybody told her, you can't have that, you can't have this, she would say, well, fuck you, I'm going to get it myself. So she called that her fuck you money. Right? Brilliant. So, that's the way you should be. So, yeah, that's the best way to deal with racism. Be a winner. Okay. My case number is 4K Algeria. Already answered that one. Is case number 43K AF Kenya low or high? And when can I expect my 2NL? Okay, I'm going to assume that you're a DV26, but I am going to kill an angel now. But I'm going to assume that you must mean your DV26. When can you expect your 2NL? It's probably going to be next summer, spring or summer of next year, roughly. But we'll see later. You'll have plenty of time to figure out the timing. Okay. Hello, Britt. It's good evening over high in Nairobi. Oh, nice. I'd like to ask what clause was passed in what that Morin considers the big beautiful bill, 250 visa integrity surcharge. Will it affect? Okay, from a DV lottery point of view, there were two charges. One was a $250 entry, and there was another charge of $400 for processing that were going to be introduced as part of that one big beautiful balls up of a bill. Those clauses were removed. However, there's another charge, which you're talking about, I believe, $250 for the visa integrity surcharge, but that is only for non-immigrant visas, as far as I understand it. It's not to do with immigrant visas, and DV lottery is an immigrant visa, so it doesn't affect us. Okay. Cotonou messed up. I emailed Vienna. It accepted my case and told me KCC will transfer the case to the office. I'm now patiently waiting for 2NL. Yeah, Waguti. Vienna is doing some good stuff at the moment. I'm not sure how long it will continue. I've got a feeling they might even stop right now. But so far they have answered a number of people, like they've answered you, saying that they are accepting cases and that they are going to tell KCC to assign that case to them and schedule the interview. So fingers crossed, Waguti. You may have saved your case there, and congratulations if that comes through. I hope it does. Any new requirements for DV27 known? Thanks. No, I don't know any yet. We'll see the proper announcement probably only in September, to be honest, next month. They normally do the announcement of the lottery fairly late, like, sometimes a week or two before the lottery. And that's when we see the instructions, and it's only then that we see whether there's some new requirement. But I'm not expecting anything. Okay. Hi Simon, my brother had won the green card with highest case number 2025 AF 58112. Are there chances of 2NLs in Rwanda? The chances are reducing, as I talked about earlier. How can I apply with job experience? Preschool in zone number 4, kindergarten is zone number 5. I don't know what that zone number 4 and zone number 5 thing means. You don't apply with job experience, work experience versus education. What you do is you go to the interview and you show them the education that you've got, and they will say, well, that does or it doesn't meet the requirements. If your education meets the requirements, then they simply move on. If it doesn't meet the requirements, then you have to be prepared to show your work experience to say what you've done, right? Are you talking about? Okay, so I'm not quite sure what you're asking for, but if you Google the words Brit Simon work experience, you'll come across an article where I explain how to check your work experience. It's an article on my blog that I did years ago, and it's still valid. How do you check that your work experience will be considered enough for the DV lottery to meet the requirements, right? And you need 2 years of work experience within the previous 5 years prior to the interview, okay? And that work experience has to have been at a certain level. And there are some jobs that don't qualify, right? So it's not just work experience with any job. You have to be careful about what job you say you've been doing, okay? Lucas says, 2025 EU, our interview is in September. Is proof of funds required? And how can I prove I have sufficient means? Should I bring property deeds, bank statements? Thanks for your amazing work. Bank statements is probably the best way if you have plenty of money in your bank statement. Property deeds is kind of pointless. I could own a property for worth $1 million, and if I've got a mortgage of $990,000 on it, then I've only got $10,000 worth of value in there, and I have to, and along with that, I have to show someone, a consular officer, the mortgage details and the valuation of the property, and it's just too much bullshit. So they're not interested in properties that you own. That doesn't make any difference to your application. What they're interested in is liquid cash that you have in savings in your own bank accounts, or failing that, the income of somebody else who lives in America who is prepared to support you by filling in an I-134, okay? If you have your own cash in banks, bank accounts and that sort of thing, cash I'm talking about, right? Liquid funds, then that money should be at least $10,000 per person emigrating, at least 10,000, right? So if you have that, then that might be enough to satisfy any concerns. Now, they don't always ask about finances. Sometimes it's obvious that the person sitting on the other side of the desk is going to be fine because they're very highly educated, or they're in a very good job zone, where they're going to find work and so on. The consular officer is free to use any factors that they want in order to assess the person and say, will they become a public charge or not? Will they be needing government assistance or not, right? And so they can take into account your personal finances, your savings, your job, your education, and so on. And if those things look okay, then that's all they need to do. And they don't need to even ask if you have savings or if you have someone who supports you financially in the USA. if those other things look good, right? But if they're not sure, then they can ask you. Okay. When does the visa bulletin for DV26 come out? The visa bulletin will be published every single month between the 8th and the 15th of the month. And the very next one that comes out, which will be in a week's time, a week to 2 weeks' time, that'll be the one that concerns DV26. Okay. Is there any chance that the Asian region become the current case number 19K? No, the numbers are finished for DV25. There is going to be no further increase in the case numbers for DV25. If you're talking about DV26 and you haven't made that clear, I don't know yet. It's too early to talk about DV26 numbers, okay? Burgos, how you doing? Is it possible a redistribution of visas for other regions in DV26? A redistribution of visas? I mean, it's way too early to be thinking or asking about that, Burgos. I'm not quite sure why you're asking that. The quotas are established, but they're not hard and fast because there is always an aspect of redistribution. So the 50,000 visas, whether it's 50, 55, 52,000, they're divided up amongst the regions according to a formula. But in that formula, at the end of that formula, it also says that unused visas from one region can be redistributed to the other regions using the same formula. Okay. Pretty consistently, Africa doesn't use all of its visa allocation. So Africa, as well as other regions, can donate their unused visas to other states, other regions, so that other regions sometimes go over their quota. It happens. Now, in DV25, probably no region is going to go over its quota, and there will be several thousand visas just wasted. Probably about 4,000 visas are going to be wasted. There's no way they can hit the numbers. Actually, since we're talking about that, let me just show you this. This is the DV charts data as of yesterday from Zarthisius. They've scheduled nearly 63,000 people. My target for scheduling for this year was 65,000 people. So they haven't scheduled enough. And more of those 63,000 people will actually now be immediately refused. And more of them won't show up than expected. So actually this number is significantly too low. So we're seeing quite a high number of refusals. 4,938 have already been refused, and that number is going to increase quite a lot because of the travel ban effects. We're seeing 3,100 people still in 221G, but many of those people are going to be affected by the travel ban. So not very many of those cases will be cleared, probably only 1,000 cases. And we've got 18,000 people in ready status, but at least 6,000, probably actually more like 7,000, are no-show cases from previous months, right? So this number really is more like 11 to 12,000 of people, people that are scheduled for August and September interviews, right? So, and from 12,000 interviews, you're not going to get more than about maybe 8,000, maybe 9,000. So let's say they get 9,000, which I think is very optimistic. Let's say they get 9,000 more issuances from there and 1,000 from 221G. That would be 10,000 more to go on top of the 36,500. That takes us to about 46,500. That's roughly where I think we're going to end up, 46, 47,000, something in that range. Maybe if we're lucky, we might get to 48,000. But if we got to 48,000, that means they're wasting 4,000 visas. So, they're underfilling. Without a doubt, it's going to be an underfilled year, which is a shame. They're just wasting those things. Okay. Why Sierra Leone is not receiving 2NL? Well, Sierra Leone, any embassy is able to stop making capacity available for DV lottery at any time. So unfortunately, it just happens that way. I'm not quite sure what's happening. I don't know why it happens. It's just that some embassies just stop taking cases at some point. It's bizarre. World Adventure, I hope you're fine. My question is, are we expected to be paying when we are applying for the DV lottery in October? No, you shouldn't be paying. It's a free entry process. Now, if you've got, if you need help, or if you want to make sure that your entry is done properly, there are some agents that do, a reasonable job for a reasonable price. But you need to be sure that you're getting your entry details. You do not want to apply through an agent that doesn't give you your entry details straight away. Okay. Because if you use an agent to apply for you and they don't give you your entry number and so on, all of the details you need in order to check your case later on, if they don't give you those things, then it means that they will check later on and they can then say, oh, you're a winner. You've got to give us $2,000 in order to get your winning details. They can blackmail you at that point, right? So you don't want to go through that sort of agency. Be very, very careful. And other than that, you don't need to pay. Okay, it's a free entry. Okay. Okay. Is it possible to see 2 TNL for DV25? Although after realizing the first VB for 2026 winners, it's possible, just less likely. It has happened in some years. It's just less likely. Okay. Talked about that one, Fub. Okay. Praise Jesus, bro. I have a gardener. His name is Jesus. Is that who you mean? I have a question. If I win a DV lottery when I'm single and I happen to come to the States and attain the US citizenship, how will my spouse to join me in the States? Well, you would marry. You can get married and then you can sponsor the spouse. So there's various ways that you can do that, but it takes a long time. That's the only thing I'll tell you. It does take a while. Pooh rules. I'm a preschool teacher. You asked about that earlier, right? About work experience. Kindergarten and preschool, same in our country. But when I checked, okay. First of all, you'll have to check ONET database. Go to the website I told you earlier. Go do the Google search that I pointed out earlier, and see if you can find a way of describing your job against a job description that does meet the requirements. And if you can't, then you probably don't even want to continue. Okay. I'm a Somali nationality, won the DV25. My wife is from Djibouti. I have a travel ban on my passport. She doesn't. What can I do? Can I go to the interview or not? You would need, if you're the winner, you need that second citizenship and second passport. It isn't enough that just your wife has that. You can't both go, and you can't be approved anyway. If you're the winner and you're banned, you can't be approved. So you would have to have a second citizenship, genuine second citizenship, not some bullshit, not, you lie to get the information. You pretend you were born a second time in a different place, and all of a sudden, hey presto, you got an Ethiopian passport or something because you lied on your application to get that passport. You can't do that. So you have to be careful to only present legitimate documents. But if you have a way of obtaining a second citizenship, and you can have a passport on that second citizenship, then that's the way you can get around the travel ban. Okay. I would like to ask about the dual passport in a banned country. Can I take the passport of an unbanned country alone? Yeah. So you take both passports to the interview. You show the passport that presumably you applied with your citizenship and your nationality and your country of birth, and you can show that passport. But you'll give them the other passport of the unbanned country, and you'll travel on that other passport. So you can do that. King Greg, in my DS260, I'm currently in my third year of university education. I listed in my current education among the schools completed, but I can't list the ending year 2026. You're currently in education, so that's your current occupation. You haven't completed that education yet. So you don't fill in that education in the previously completed education section. That would be in your current occupation. Okay, simple. Hey Simon, will Addis Ababa still send 2.5 September? They've been quiet lately. Yeah, they have been quiet. I don't know whether they're going to take any cases or not. I can't predict that. Okay. I'm a DV26 selectee, case number 12,000. Do I have a chance to get an interview in October, November, and December at Nairobi Embassy? We'll have to wait and see what they do. Last year, Nairobi took some cases for November or December interview. They took cases for those, but then they stopped for the rest of the year. So, and then took some more for September, another 450. So they took 421 cases for, I think it was November or possibly December of last year, and then took another 453 cases, I think it was, for September. How they work this year is going to be, we'll have to see. Fingers crossed, hopefully they'll be working more normally, but I can't guarantee that, right? We'll have to wait and see. Tide Gaming, any chance for higher case number in DV26 Asia region? By any chance, I'm 6,700 KTM age out in January, need guidance. KTM, don't know what KTM is, but 6,700 is not a high case number. You'll age out in January, that's a problem. So do you really mean you're going to age out in January? You've applied the additional 214 days or whatever it is in DV26. You've applied that additional length of time to your 21st birthday. So, I've got an article in my blog, Brit Simon, you Google the words Brit Simon turning 21, right? And you'll come up with an article where I describe the CSPA and how that's implemented in DV Lottery. Oh, funny story. There's this website, DV Lottery USA or something. And there's a guy on there, a guy or a girl, I don't know, who's giving insanely stupid answers to people with very confident sounding, information. This guy doesn't know shit from Sherlock in terms of DV Lottery, but he's giving all these answers and he's telling people, oh, I know this and I know that. And he's giving people predictions about case numbers that make no fucking sense whatsoever. He says things like Oceania and South America always go current, and therefore they'll go current and they'll be completely cleared, meaning every case will have its interview. I mean, this guy's a complete idiot. But interestingly, I went there the other day because somebody asked me to have a look at this answer. And this guy had given an answer on CSPA that was clearly wrong, clearly 100% wrong. The guy has no idea and shouldn't be telling people anything. So if you are listening, if you're that person from DV Lottery USA or whatever stupid website you have, please stop with the nonsense. Like, just learn more and say less, right? Because you're not in a good position. You're not educated enough to tell people things, right? So just stop it. Nobody wants to buy you a cup of coffee, as your website suggests people should do. Nobody wants to look at your stupid website with stupid information and bad predictions and bad information. And when you then answer people and tell people that they are covered by CSPA when they're clearly not, if you understand how the bloody thing works, then you're being cruel and unreasonably stupid, telling people to go to their medical interviews based on protection that they don't have, right? Why are you telling people to go to an expensive medical and turn up to the interview and pay interview fees only to be rejected because they're not qualified through CSPA? Why are you telling people that, you moron? Stop it. Stop pretending you know what you're doing with DV Lottery. Anyway, so I innocently write a correction to the person who asked the question, not to the person who's given the bad answer, but the person gave the bad answer. And then I add a comment saying, no, what you've just been told by this DV Lottery website is incorrect. It's worse than ChatGPT in terms of its answer. It's deliberately, it's just stupidly incorrect. And so I corrected it and I explained what this person should do. And then within a short period of time, that guy blocks me from the website so that I can't give anybody any information. Which is just stupid, even more stupid and cruel. Like, why are you doing that? That's just ridiculous. You're a moron. I hate people like that. Pretend to know what they're talking about and give people information that will cost them money and cost them their time, etc. because you don't know enough. Like, stop. Lucy and Dungu. What if the police clearance certificate is unobtainable for certain reasons? How do I go about that during the interview? Okay, let's talk about that. When you go to the reciprocity page, if in that reciprocity page it makes clear that the police certificate in your circumstances is unobtainable, then you don't need to present the police certificate because the US government has decided that you can't get the police certificate. If, on the other hand, that you can't get it for some other reason, right? The US government in the reciprocity page believe you should be able to get it, but actually you can't for some other reason, then that's a problem, right? And you've got to get the police certificate. You have to. If you don't provide that, you won't be approved. Okay, so get it. Okay. Is it possible for an embassy to send 2 NLs for DV25 within this month? Yes, it's possible, just not very likely. Okay. Cedric, I'm a new immigrant, DV25, when I got my visa in Nairobi, Kenya in December 24, in the US from DR Congo, and I would like to ask you if it is mandatory to have a credit card. No, it's not mandatory at all. Credit cards are a useful tool for building credit checks, credit score. But a credit score is a useful thing if you only if you want credit, basically. I mean, there's some other uses for it. It helps you with, you can apply for a mortgage with it, which is a type of credit. It can help you with your insurance policies, your car insurance, and that sort of thing. But in general, some people get by without much of a credit score at all. That's okay. You don't have to have a credit card, in other words. I do recommend people learn how to use credit cards, but the only way you should use credit cards is you spend money on a credit card and you pay off that entire bill at the end of each month, right? Whenever you get the bill that says, hey, you've spent $2,000, and they'll tell you that you have to make a minimum payment on that $2,000 of, let's say, I don't know, $50 or something. If you pay only that $50, then you're an idiot, because what you're doing is you're leaving $1,950 on which they will then charge you interest at a very high interest rate. Then the next month you'll spend another $1,500. Now you owe nearly $3,500, and you pay the minimum amount again, and you'll see your debt will start to become out of control. Okay, so the only way I recommend people have credit cards is if you spend $2,000 and you get the bill at the end of the month that says your balance is $2,000, you pay that off automatically, right? You pay off the whole $2,000. Okay, I've got several credit cards. I've got a couple of credit cards. I've got $35,000 credit limits on them. I've got maybe $80,000 in available credit. But every month, every single month, my credit card bills come and they're paid automatically, right? I just pay the whole balance. I never put money, on a credit card unless I'm intending to pay that at the end of that month. Okay. And you should do the same. Now, if you do that and you have a credit history like mine, where you've got nothing but, approval after approval, I mean, I can show you. I could literally show you how all of my credit cards have got 100% track record of my credit history. I pay my bills 100% on time. Never had a slow or late payment on my mortgage or any credit card or anything else. I pay it 100%. So, my credit card bills, I spend typically $10,000 a month on credit cards, right? So I use credit cards, but I pay them off all the time. It's the only way to do it. Okay. All right. Tarek, let's see. Ban news and delete their comments. Yeah, I've got someone filling my. So I've got some people who think it's a wise idea to just spam spam my conversation here with lots of repeated statements from Morocco and Casablanca and everything else. I don't appreciate that, and so I'm just banning some of those people because you're just making a mess. Okay, so stop doing that. Spamming me isn't gonna help me help you, right? Just stop that. Okay. How long is the maximum time processing the DS260? There isn't really a maximum time, right? It varies by case because your situation might be different to the next person. You may have traveled to countries where there's terrorism concerns. You may have a name that sounds similar to someone on the terror watch list. You may have education, on how to make nuclear weapons or something. And so they're going to take more of an interest in you. So, your DS260 processing is not the same for every single case. Okay. So there you go. Dear Mrs., we are Moroccan winners of the DV25 lottery. Yes, I appreciate that. We're living in stress and fear of losing our dreams because of delays. Please help us by speaking about our situation. Your voice can make a difference, probably is what you want to say. I've spoken about this. I do criticize embassies when they stop working, okay? But this campaign that some of you are going on about Casablanca, you think that by spamming everybody's conversations, spamming Twitter, spamming, sending silly letters to the embassy, it's not going to help, and some of it might actually be worse. Things like that letter I saw that I mentioned earlier that demands certain action from the US embassy. That's just as likely to be met with disdain and frankly, get people to work against you. And also, please try and understand, it's not just particular to Casablanca. There are plenty of unfair stories. There are people in Ankara embassy who can tell you for years they've been disadvantaged by that embassy in Turkey, and that's mainly Turkish people and Iranians. Iranians have had a difficult time for years and now are banned. People from Yemen and Afghanistan are banned, right? The Frankfurt embassy just decided to stop taking interviews inexplicably. Nairobi embassy has only taken interviews up to 21,405 or something. Addis Ababa and Accra embassy just didn't do any work for a long time, and they did some work this year and they did better, but they've not got to the full numbers. So this perspective that we should all sort of drop everything we're doing and worry about Morocco embassy in Casablanca, and that only Morocco is being disadvantaged, and it's somehow racism against the people in Morocco. You're just ignoring the fact that all of these other people in other countries have been experiencing this for a long time. And I don't remember any of you sort of speaking up for their rights at that time then. I have been. I've been complaining about that. And I complain about Morocco in the same way. But to suggest that this is suddenly something that we should all just stop and solve the problem at Morocco because Moroccans now are being affected, when you've just quietly stood by and been fine with other countries having a terrible time of it, not said a damn word. You didn't raise your voice when Trump banned 19 countries out of the blue because you weren't banned, right? So please spare me the perspective that we should all now only be worried about Morocco when there are plenty of sad stories to go around. Right? It's not that I don't. It's not I feel bad towards Moroccans or Casablanca embassy or whatever else. I feel as bad and as pissed off about Morocco as I feel about Turks in Ankara or Armenians who got screwed over last year, or people in Ghana that got screwed over for the 2 years previous to that, or Addis Ababa that did nothing for 2 years, or some of these other stories. Right? It's not just about Morocco. Okay. Hi, Roberto. Never forget about your non-current friends. We'll be back. Yes, I hope you will be, and I hope you find some decent future in in your future, Roberto. Good luck with that. Quite an interesting yet functional mug. Um, what have we got on there? Yeah, there you go. You probably can't see that, but to Daddy from your cheeky monkey. One of my favorite mugs. Okay. Hi, Britt. Thanks for all you're doing in the Diversity Visa program. I'm a beneficiary from your many tips in the process, currently living in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Why did you go there? Why did you go to Minneapolis? What was in there? Let me know, Mohammed, why you went there. It's cold, right? Well, but anyway. Okay, let's see. What else is there here? Oh, no one from Morocco. Here we go. Sorry, Nicola. Any chances Europe goes current during next spring for DV26? I don't know. We don't know how many selectees there are, right? So we can't sort of make predictions yet about how next year is going to go without having those numbers. We'll have those numbers in about 2 weeks' time. Okay. Is it possible to schedule DV appointments in Morocco? See, yes, I applied additional days and I used ChatGPT to calculate my age out date at KTM as Nepal Embassy. Okay, so then if you're Nepal at 6,700, I think you told me before, that's quite a high number. It's not a high number, but it's high for Nepal. It's high for Asia. High by January. That's a bit scary. So yeah, you're probably going to age out. I'm afraid if that's your age out date, you're probably going to age out. So you need to think with your family what that means. You won't be able to be a beneficiary of their case. You need to talk to your parents about that and say, okay, what's the plan? Do they still want to go if you can't go? Right? You have to think about that. Ahmed, I'm DV25 winner from Kenya. I did my medical on 31st of August and was put on sputum test, and results will be out by 29th of September. If my results come out negative, is there a hope that I can get a visa? Yes, there is a hope, Ahmed, but you have to plan this in advance. I think I've already talked to you about this, right? You have to arrange when you go for the interview. You have to arrange that your medical results will be available on the 29th. You may have to have an interview on the 29th or the 30th. And you've got to arrange all of that with the embassy. It's going to take some cooperation from the embassy, right? So there's a chance you can do it, but really is a matter of how well you arrange that with the embassy prior to the actual time, right? They may, in Kenya in particular with IOM, they may not let you attend the interview prior to having the medical results. Fine, that's not terrible, as long as you can have an interview scheduled for the 30th of September and that you will have some way of making sure that the embassy have your medical results on the 30th of September. Okay. And then if you can be approved on the 30th, it doesn't have to be printed on that day, but you have to be approved on that day. And so, then you've got a chance, but it will take some cooperation. Okay. All right. Hello, we have an issue here in Morocco. Yeah, I know that. We just talked about that. Just talked about that one. Tiger. And there's a system requesting an interview a month early, something like that. Yeah, my mother is worried and says, if you can't go, I won't go too. That's exactly my point, Tide Gaming. You have to think that way, right? You have to think about whether your family still want to proceed if you can't go. You can't get an interview prior to your current date, right? If your number is not current by January, then there's nothing that you can do about that. You can't get an early interview as you seem to think. Okay, that's probably a bit. It seems like I've got no more questions, and so we'll call it a day. I can't believe I got to the end of the questions. That's kind of amazing. I think there were so many spamming comments that it kind of told people to, just forget asking questions. So there you go. That's why I banned a few people. I banned 4 or 5 people. Okay, so anyway, that'll be it. Here, one last question here. We'll ask this, and then we'll call it a day. Hi, Mr. Simon. I will miss my interview because I didn't fill my 2026 AF27 AF case. Oh God. What have you done? You haven't missed your interview. Okay, so look, Mr. Yasser Faoud, you haven't missed your interview. DV26 interviews haven't started yet, so I don't know why you're saying you missed your interview, or I will miss my interview because I. Oh, okay, I see what you're saying. So you're filling in your DS260 late, and you're worried that your number will be current before your DS260 is processed. That's okay, it doesn't matter. When your DS260 is processed later, let's say it's processed, I don't know, by December or January, even though your case number has been passed in terms of the visa bulletin, they'll come back and they'll schedule an interview for you as soon as your DS260 is processed. So don't worry about that, okay? Okay. Yes, there is a DV26 Telegram channel. It's the same as the, let me just get the link actually, so that you can go join that. 26. The Telegram channel is there. Let me just grab that, put that in here. That's the link for the DV26 Telegram channel. Just put it in the chat there, okay? I'll do a couple more quick questions because I see that a couple more are coming. I'm 17 from Hungary, Europe. Graduated the same year I get my visa, June, July. As an average, when should I turn my DV260 in so I can optimize? Yeah, okay. So, look, your case number may already be quite high, right? You're not telling me all the information I need to know to help you, right? If you're going to be, if you don't want to actually move until June or July of 2026, then yes, you can delay your DS260, but I wouldn't do that too late. And if your case number is already high or medium, then you might be delayed anyway. So if you get an interview in March or April or May, that might be perfectly fine because you get 6 months after that time in order to move to the USA. And you can also move to the USA. You can travel to the USA, activate your green card, and immediately leave. You can leave as soon as you like, and you can be out for 6 months at a time, right? So you can keep your visa alive for a year or so. So you may not need to delay. So if I were you, I'm not quite sure how DS260 will be processing will be under the new administration. They seem to be slowing things down for DS260 processing because of the not KCC cutbacks, but other agencies have been cut. And so it seems to be slowing DS260 processing down. Therefore, I would not want to delay the DS260 if I were you, okay? I would be submitting it now, okay? Okay. Okay, last question from Daniel here. If you're a student in a foreign country and came back to your country 10 years ago, is it a must you get the police clearance certificate? Yes, it is. If you were over 16 when you were in that country 10 years earlier, then yes, you need the police certificate for that, okay? There you go. We'll call that a day. Thanks for joining, everyone. I hope that was useful to you. If you have any questions that you still want to ask them at britsimonsays.com. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.